Hey, good morning. We're working on this Bronco, and I think we did a video on this, the process of what we're doing here, but this is something for you to learn from if you're getting ready to make some modifications in terms of powertrain, anything where you're not putting back the original equipment in your vehicle and you're trying to think your way through all this, and you're going to get real frustrated because it takes some time to think your way through it. It's not something you can do just in 3 minutes or a day. Maybe sometimes it takes longer than that to get this all kind of worked out in your head before you try something. Then if it doesn't work, you got to try something else. So here's what we got. We got this 427 here, and we got a transmission out of a Ford truck that's a 5-speed that came out of a diesel. And we're trying to mate them together, and then we're going to put a transfer case on the back end of it for the 4-wheel drive on this Bronco. So we've got to make all this work. So here we have one part that we bought from the transmission builder, an engine that the machine shop made, and then we go to a place like Power by the Hour, anybody that makes adapters, and we have to buy adapters that adapt the transmission to the engine. And this is where it kind of gets a little iffy and complicated, because when we tried to do this, we found out that with the torque converter in there and trying to mount it up in here with the spacer plate that goes on in front of the torque converter, it wouldn't all go together. So we called back to the place that we bought all the parts from and really didn't get much help. So we got together with our transmission guy and everybody put their heads together, and we figured out we're about 1/4 to 5/16 too thick on the adapter that goes in front of the torque converter. So come over here, and Saturday, this is the piece that's going to actually bolt on the transmission, and it was too thick by about 5/16 of an inch. So we had to take some metal off of this. We put it in the mill. I'm certainly not a machinist, but I got old Mark, the guy that's a machinist that knows more, probably forgot more than most of us that ever learned about machine stuff. If he came down here Saturday, kind of got me started and oriented, and we took off 1/4 of an inch on this. Now we've got an issue that we're a little concerned about. We wanted to go to 5/16, but if you get a picture real close right here, you can see there's some thread inserts in here that we need to bolt this up. And I was concerned that if we went through there and started digging into those with the mill, that we'd actually end up tearing these thread inserts up. So we got there and stopped. So we got 1/4 of an inch off, and we're hoping that that's going to be enough to make this go together and fit properly. If it isn't, then we're probably going to put some bolts in here and flush them off, put a slot in so we can take them out with a screwdriver and continue to take a little bit more material off of this. So I put it on the rotary table. My lathe wasn't big enough for this. It couldn't grip it on the outside. My chuck isn't that big. So this was the choice right here. This cutter I'm about to drop right here is what we're going to use for our final finish. And here's the collet for it, and we'll put it in the lathe, make one more spin. But we got a pretty nice surface right here, and it doesn't have to be a machine surface because it has to fit up flush against that, make the two go together and just bolt up where there's enough room for everything to fit properly. So our job today is we're not going to put it back in the truck for the Bronco. We're going to do it right here because it'll be a little more manageable, a little easier to work, and just see if it'll all slide back together before we put it back in there. Now, the other thing that we did this week on this engine, if you look right here in the front, I get comments all the time because I call them motors, and people say they're supposed to be, that's an engine. But this engine right here on the oil pan, you can't see this very well, but it actually has a little bit of a sump on it down there. And when we put it into this Bronco, it was rubbing on the cross member. So Keanu came in and made us we cut this hole for clearance, but that actually turns out that oil pan has 2 drain plugs on it, so we needed to be able to drain the front sump, and we made a little piece that went in here with a hole. Now, the thing that worries me about stuff like this, when you start cutting on a cross member, sometimes right in the corners they'll start to crack. So on the bottom side, we put gussets or a frame around that and drilled in and welded those back in so that they'll take most of the torsion and torque out of this so that this cross member will stay strong. And of course, this pan in here is made out of 3/16, so everything should be okay with that. So now we're going to paint that today once we get this motor back together and make sure that's all going to fit. So a little update. I guess the information here is that no matter what you do, a lot of times we put automatic transmissions in that are overdrive. A lot of people are putting LSs and Coyote motors and stuff, and there's not a book. So you need to think about that thoroughly before you start putting your vehicle together, and make sure you understand everything's going to go together and be patient about getting it to work right. I'm here to help you if I can. So you can call me or you can email me or whatever we can do to help you out, make it more comfortable so you can have more fun doing this. I'm Barry Wilson, Wilson Auto Repair. Subscribe if you don't mind to my YouTube site, and have a great day.